Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here. Today we're back with another predictions video from 3.2 all the way to 3.4. We have our model here on screen that we'll be using and crunching some numbers. I'll share with you the characters I think are not only going to come out, reruns, quad banners, when do I think the buff will happen and when the older characters might come out. We're going to be talking about all of that over here as well. A few changes that we made. I did miss this video's version of the 3.11 because we were super busy with a new game launch on our second channel as well, but we are back. Every single patch, we're going to be doing it as well. I changed the format to a dark mode now, slightly darker so it doesn't blind your eyes out every time we go through the predictions video. So what do I have here? We have a huge list already, and I think the first thing that comes to mind that I think by now we have a bit of trend already. When is the quad banner coming back? Because that's the hardest thing to predict, right? When are you going to get slapped with a surprise? Hey guys, we're going to give you 4 characters in each banner. So we tracked the banners. The first time it came out was here, where you had the Kafka banner with Black Swan and stuff, 2.5. We had a 2-patch gap, 2.6, 2.7, and 3.0 slapped in the Octa banner, which is not just a quad, it's a double quad banner. Crazy stuff. The one that we are, of course, in as of time of recording, and we are going into 3.1. So we are currently here as of time of recording, but we are going into 3.1. This is the known things that we have. The rest of them are still unknown variables. So based on this trend, if we can assume, maybe it's a little bit early to come to a conclusion, but what that means is 3.2 likely will not have a quad banner because it's too soon. They need at least a 2-patch gap. And also 3.3 might be the first time that we are seeing a quad banner or even an Octa banner coming back in the patch itself. Octa meaning you have a quad banner on each half, so 4 characters coming in one half, 4 characters in the other half. So it's always good to use this data to prepare ourselves in case we want to save for older character. But what older character do I think might come up in 3.3, 3.4 if there will be a quad banner? I think this quad banner system, the one that will come back shortly, is tied together to... Remember we put out a video and Hoivers also put out a statement saying that they are planning to buff older characters. Who knows, maybe like Zila, maybe like Silverwolf, maybe like Blade, Luota, Jingyuan doesn't need a buff, and other characters like maybe Kafka, Imbibitor Lune, Jingliu, all the slightly older characters that really need a bit more buffing to come and play. I think they're going to align the quad banner system together with the older characters that haven't been like reran for a long time. Characters that haven't seen their second rerun, Blade in 21 banner cycles. You have Zila with 24 banner cycles, whereas you have other characters like Robin who comes back in like 6. There's like crazy biasness going on, right? So I think Hoivers definitely acknowledge that if we were to see another quad banner cycle with new refresh 1.0 characters, likely they will be coming back when the next quad banner happens. My guess is somewhere around 3.3, 3.4. But anyways, that is for the quad banner. Some of you who are wanting to know when we might get a lot of smacked with like reruns. That's my guess. So for a pattern for normal banner, now talking about the normal banner cycle here, if we were to guess, in my opinion, the banner cycle seems to have stabilized as one rerun, first ever rerun. So newer characters that come back for the first time, one of them in the banner, you have like 2 new characters, and then you have 1 second rerun, which means a character that has came back for a rerun once, but is coming back again. This seems to be the trend. So 2 new, 1 first rerun, 1 second rerun. Quite straightforward, and I think we're going to be likely seeing that in 3.2, 3.3, 3.4. If there is no quad banner, it's just a normal 4 banner entire patch system. So that's the order. But before we go in like the predictions, let's look at some data trends now that we are seeing. So something that recently happened, like recent statistics that I noticed, is the first reruns nowadays are quite fast. It's like 4 to 11. It's in fact a lot faster than previously, which generally have a much longer trend. So characters that reran like just in 4 banners is like Lingsha came back super quickly. You have Fei Xiao also came back super quickly, and of course Robin who comes back every now and then. Tomorrow she might come back as well. These are noticeable trends. So on the one hand, you have very characters that just come back super early, like Lingsha, Robin, Fei Xiao. And then on the other hand, you have also popular characters, because we can't form a rule like popular characters come back earlier. Akirion is relatively popular, and Boot Hill is also quite decent, but these 2 characters came back like towards the like 10, 11 patches, which is really long. So as you can see here, Akirion took 10 patches to come back. Even Adventurine, who's also quite popular, 9 patches. Boot Hill decent 11 patches, so there is no real like correlation between the popularity of characters and how early they come back. But generally across what we have seen, Harmony characters tend to come back sooner than other characters, maybe because of their dominance in the meta. It sells better as well, to get people to pull for like multiple copies and stuff like that in the meta to do more damage. So that is some stuff that we noticed for first reruns. For second reruns, what we are noticing is the second reruns generally are taking longer, which is naturally the case because you have 2 new reruns, only one per patch has a second rerun, so naturally it's going to get longer and longer. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule. You have Topaz and Nambi and Robin who just come back ridiculously quickly for their second rerun, meaning that they came back first rerun, 5 banners first rerun, and then 6 banners second rerun for Robin. And Topaz and Nambi is like more or less exactly a similar trend over here. For first banner, you have her at 8, second banner was like 6. She came back faster for a second rerun than a first. Maybe even a third rerun at this point. I'm just joking, I don't think so. Third reruns are a little bit of a stretch right now. But that's also another thing that we noticed. There are no third reruns even until now. So if you miss a second rerun, chances are you missed that character for a really, really long time. And that's what we are noticing recently in times. Some quick summary. But longer term statistics, that's what's really nice about this video, is because we have a lot more data. We have been doing this video predictions since like 1 point something a year and plus ago. Something that we notice is generally, if you are looking for a character to rerun, it takes you about 8 banners, 8.5 banners, which approximates to about 6 months. So if you miss this character, let's say Tribi is on the banner, My Day is on the banner, you miss them, you can predict 6 months from now, they are likely going to have their rerun. So save your resources accordingly. Of course, nothing is like hard truth 6 months. There are a bit of variations to the rule. Earliest that they can come back is in 3 months, 4 weeks. Robin, for example, if you miss a popular character, maybe Tribi is like super meta, you miss her, predict 3 months, might come back. So prepare your resources as well. They might come back in like 2 patches or like 4 banner cycles. So it's really, really quickly. Other than that, sometimes, if you really like a character, you miss them, unfortunately, they can take a really, really long time. Longest reruns are like 13 banners, or even characters like Dr. Ratio, who is more of an exception to the rule by now, who haven't even had his first rerun in many patches already since like Panacony started. It's a crazy long time. But if you miss those kind of banners, you are looking at almost a year without that character, your favorite character. So that is something to note. They generally have a huge deviation between when they might return and when they can take to return and stuff like that. So I put a standard deviation and stuff like that, 6 weeks for any of you who care about the statistics. But anyways, that is just a bit of an overall arcing view so that we can help plan. That's what these prediction videos are for. I'm no sage. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have a direct hotline to Taoe. Some of you seem to think so because of our guesses being relatively accurate. And again, this video is recorded just after the 3.1 live stream. So there is no like superior information going around that I have access to at all. So it's just purely based on logic and making deductions. As you see on the channel, we are making guesses. At the end of the day, it's purely guesses. But in my opinion, let's just cut to the chase, right? Straight up. I think that first half is going to be Castery, second half is going to be Annexer. It has always been the case. When the first drip comes out, the second drip usually is the second banner. So my guess, if 3.2 follows the same rule, which likely it will, I'm quite confident on this. First half is Casteries, second half is Annexer, most likely. Generally, also the rule is the stronger banner is in the first half, the weaker banner, weaker in terms of popularity. Like I would say Casteries probably has more people liking her compared to Annexer. Maybe My Day might be the exception to the rule, but generally the first banner tends to be the one with the higher sales that pumps out the sales for them. So that is one thing that is important to know. At this point, who are the characters that can rerun? The options are quite a few. Remember we said one new character or one first rerun, one second rerun. In my opinion, they are likely going to pair a character that works well with Casteries to help sell her banner very well. If you look at her VAs, they spent a lot of money on her Japanese VA already, Casteries. She looks like a Honkai Impact character. They are going to make her good. They want her to sell very well. My guess is that they are going to pair her together with very, very solid supports. In my opinion, 2 characters make a likelihood. If we talk about who is likely to come back for the first rerun, you have Jiao Qiu, who's 10 cycles now at this point. He is a buffer in general. He can increase damage depending on whether Casteries survives out of debuffs or whether she prefers Sunday type buffers. Anyone's guess right now. It's very early days. The 3.1 live stream was literally just seconds and minutes ago. So I think that one of the candidates for a rerun is going to be Jiao, based on inference. Characters generally have their first rerun between 4 to 11 banners recently, so Jiao is a high candidate. But I want to make this a bit more lenient because of the lack of visibility into a new banner. I'm going to give you 2 characters that I think is going to come back. The second character that I think is going to come back, and for any of you who want this character, I think the next one is going to be Sunday. In line with like his sister timeline, if he comes back in the first half together with Casteris, because he's like a remembrance-based buffer, if he comes back in 5 patches, he is still very, very popular, very, very hot. People want to get this character because he's very good for remembrance characters. It will sell very well. People will be forced to pull for both Casteris and Sunday, making them a lot of money. If you think, I'm not helping them make more money, don't misunderstand me. If you think from their perspective as a business, they always try to like, how do we make more money? So that is one good way they can do. Put Casteris together with Sunday. Unfortunately, it's going to be a bit expensive for those of us trying to pull for both of them. That is one angle they can do. So my guess, Jiao, Sunday, together with Casteris in the first half. I think the one that has more likelihood is going to be Sunday. I'm just going to put a star here, meaning that I think it's the slightly lesser option. And those of you who are watching this video and instead of like skipping, you can see that as well. In case you're wondering what the stars mean. So second half. Now the guess for the second half, for any of you who are wondering, I think it's more likely to have a character rerunning in the second half that may be an older character. So characters that might be this case. So I bucket them in terms of first rerun and then second rerun in the second half. Of course, they could like switch. Like maybe Jiao could also be in the second half, and then one of the characters could be in the first half. So it really goes either way, depending on how they want to allocate it, because they don't have much of a trend who goes in second, who goes in first half. Generally, I notice the characters that pair well tend to go together most of the time. For a second rerun, my guess, and probably one of the characters that I think might come back, is going to be a character like Sparkle. I think Sparkle can come back as well. She's a quantum-based buffer, which Casteris is also quantum. She could even be in the first half and Jiao be in the second half. So it's really anyone's wildest guess. It could be something like this. So this portion, they could swap places because Sparkle, together with a character like Casteris, mono quantum team, does sell quite well as well. She also has some sort of a buff. Maybe she gets reworked, maybe she gets upgraded in future, who knows, to improve, like make it a 100% push instead of a 50% push. So Sparkle is one of them that I think is going to come back. The other character that I think is going to come back is a really, really old timer that hasn't seen the light of day in forever. That is probably going to be Luota. Given that we had a character like Maide who just came back, who has like some sort of HP sapping mechanics like Blade, we could get a return of a character like Luota, who is really good with these kind of HP sapping characters. He hasn't had his second rerun in forever. Maybe they are waiting for a revamp for him, but he is a candidate that could come back and see some play, especially with the revival of HP sapping mechanics. For example, like Jingliu, together with characters, for example, like Blade. These are all characters with like some sort of HP sapping mechanic. Not so much Jade, in my opinion. So that it sums up for my summary for 3.2, the characters. Now, 3.3 and 3.4 are a little bit trickier to make a prediction. So based on the model, what we have been seeing, it does imply, let me give you a few characters that come to mind. So any of you who are worried that your favorite character is coming back, a few characters are actually highlighted based on the model data that we have, the trends that we have. And then I'll tell you why this model might not be exactly accurate, and I'll share with you my thoughts. The first character is going to be Rapper. In terms of first reruns, we don't have too many first reruns that haven't came back in a long time. We are really left with Rapper here. We are left with Jiao if he doesn't come back in 3.2. So depending on what comes out in 3.2, 3.3 is going to be affected. We will of course update this once we know the official information, the subsequent live stream, so you can stay tuned for that. But this is to help us prepare long term, right? Some of you want long-term plans, so you can plan for your character. Other than that, you have characters like Sunday, you have characters, basically these three. Sunday, Rapper, as well as Jiao. These are the most likely candidates to come back for their first rerun. The rest of them are a little bit early. Herta and Fucc does feel a little bit rushed. They could space them out a little bit more instead of bringing them back so quickly. If we look at Herta, Akirion also came back in like 10 patches, so they could take their time with Herta as well, stretch her out a little bit more for 10 like banners, make her super meta, all her supports come in, then they sell her later on. That might work quite well. Whereas you can bring in like your break characters, bring in Rapper back into the game, possibly, maybe. So it's anyone's guess. These characters could be an example of characters that return again, 6 banners seems quite reasonable in my opinion for a 3.3. So whoever doesn't appear in 3.2, plus Fucc as well as Rapper, these are all candidates come back in 3.3. In my opinion, characters that could come back in the second rerun, because you will likely see new characters come back, I think that the next part where we see a quad banner, octa banner, as we talked about in the start of this video, is when we actually get upgrades to these old characters. If you look at the banner cycle, the second reruns now, red, I highlighted here like red, and I apologize for any colorblind folks. I hope that my narration and my pointing is going to help a lot. But basically, boxes like these over here, in this color, this red color over here, already tell me that the second rerun has occurred before, which means it's very unlikely they're going to have a third rerun in their banner. So red means very low chance, grey means they haven't came back a second time yet, so there's a higher chance that they will come back. So as you can see here, if you look at all these like greyed out boxes, none of them actually have a significant large number, except of course with the exception of Dr. Ratio, who was free. That's why he's an exception to the rule, and that's why he's very long, hasn't had his first banner, because everyone basically has him, so there's not much monetization if you don't pull his like cone or like subsequent characters, unless he gets a rework for some reason. And you look at the older characters, 24, 21, 17, 14, 16, 12, 13, and then you look at the newer characters, you contrast this, you have like 9, 10, 6, 6, 2, 4, 3, 1, 3, 3, 7. It's very, the discrepancy is insane right now for the older characters as well as the slightly newer characters. They are obviously selling us a lot more newer characters. They can't give two twats about the older characters. So I think when the quad banner comes in, decides when these older characters come in, and based on the model, the older characters should be having major priority. The moment they can appear, they should be appearing. The only exception is Hoyoverse is intentionally delaying them because they are obviously not economically viable. They can't make a lot of money in terms of their marketing ability right now with their meta, so out of meta. But once the buff comes, I think you will see a lot of them coming in 3.3, and these are my guesses. Whoever doesn't appear in 3.2, 3.3 for the newer characters, this list here likely will spill over to 3.4, and when the quad banner comes, when the buff comes, is when all your second reruns will come out. And in particular, I think the characters that might pop up is Zila. You might have characters like Lota Blade, who hasn't been around for a really long time. Even characters like, who knows, Jingliu, Fu Xuan, candidates who haven't appeared in a really long time, old characters at this point. So that's my thoughts, that's my opinions. We do this every single patch. Let me know your thoughts below as well. Who do you think might come back? Do you agree with our guesses? What's your intuition? And we can always check back next patch to see how well our guesses did. And we do this every single patch. But meanwhile, if you are excited for 3.1, the new characters that are coming out, we'll be doing more guides on them. Check it out on the channel. Check out these two other videos as well, which you might be interested in. And see you guys in the next video.